Hello there, Margarita Alcantara here, activator for the New Code of Power, and welcome to the Rise Up with Margarita show, which is my weekly show every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And each time we get on, we talk about a really perfect topic that is here for those leaders of light who are here to rise up in that next frequency. So today's topic is the top 5 grounding techniques for light leaders. And so I'm going to get deeper into this because I actually did a post on this pretty recently. But I'm going to be going deeper into it today because when people talk about grounding, people usually understand more of like, walking on the earth or, using crystals and things like that. And what I really want to bring into the energy around this today is that it's really about grounding in your essence. And that's really what all of this grounding stuff is. So, yes, we'll talk about the techniques. Yes, we'll talk about some of the things that will really ground you in your power right now. And this is really, because this is where I'm really bringing in those emerging light leaders who are here to do the next level work, right? It's really about this grounding in. Hi there, Margarita. Good to see you here. She says, grounding our energy is so important. Absolutely. Absolutely. And saying hello to others here on Instagram as well who are popping in. And so, such an important topic today. This is really about really anchoring in and grounding your frequency. Because here's the thing, when the emerging leaders of light are desiring to do big things in the world, a lot of them, there are traditional healers like, Reiki practitioners, polarity therapists, sound healers, all kinds of things, right? And so there's a lot of this higher energetics that is going on right now. And it's a lot of this high frequency. They're up in the cosmos a lot. And that's awesome. But the thing is that if you are not grounded in your essence, in your being on planet Earth, in Gaia's frequency, none of that shit matters. It doesn't, because if you're creating from up here, but you're not implementing on the earth plane, then it doesn't matter because it's not reaching your people. It's not helping the planet, right? And this is way different from, just kind of doing some healing work and calling it a day. It's really rising up into what am I being called forward to create in this world? What is required of me to anchor that frequency and that essence into this earth plane? And that's really what this is about right now, especially as 2021 comes to a close and we're going to be entering into 2022 in like a couple weeks now. This is where we're headed. And this is, I know personally, where, I'm headed into a new level of expansion. And I'm going to be sharing that in some of my upcoming posts too. But I'm sharing this with you because you're also being called forward to a next level as well. And so it's going to look way different than what you maybe even thought you were going to enter into maybe at the beginning of this year. And so here are some of the signs that you may be ungrounded. And so I'm sharing some of this with you because it's good in order to know how to ground. You get to at first learn, okay, am I grounded? Where am I at with that? And so some signs that may indicate that you're feeling ungrounded is that you're caught up in the cosmic and galactic higher frequencies, but you're not connected on the earthly plane. And so how that can sometimes look like is, let's say if you're kind of a traditional healer of sorts, then that might look like doing a lot of channeling, but then you don't have any clients, or you're not making any money, or you're having a hard time paying your bills, like all this earthly stuff that a lot of light workers like to demonize and say, oh, this is a bad thing, and that's why money's bad, and all this other stuff. That's all just simply because you're not anchored in, right? So that's why it's really important to really ground yourself. And so that's one of the signs that you may be ungrounded, is that you're feeling all cosmic and galactic and everything, but then you're not really anchoring that on the earthly plane. Another one is that you're scattered, right? So when you're scattered, it's usually like, you're all over the place and you're kind of thinking of 10 million things at the same time, but you're not grounded in any of them and nothing is getting done. So that's when you're scattered. And usually when you're scattered, there's usually an element of giving your power away somewhere. So meaning that when you give your power away, And, it could just be even something small, like someone pissed you off at the grocery store or something, and then like it just broke your day, right? So you, in that moment, gave your power away to that person. And so that's kind of a small snapshot of how that could look like. But that could, when you have given your power away to somebody, then that just kind of creates this cascade, right? And so then you start feeling a little scattered. So sometimes that's also how it shows up. Another sign that you may be ungrounded is you aren't rooted in your being. So there's a part of you where you're like, I don't know who I am. I don't know, like you're not rooted in that root chakraness of the fact that you are this being who is like really here to create something, and you're like not really anchored into that. That's another sign that you may be ungrounded. Another one, you are not connected to your body. So your body starts to speak to you through physical pain and chronic fatigue. And so I see this happen a lot more with star seeds. And star seeds, sometimes when they're not anchored in to their earthly existence, then their bodies will often kind of shout out for healing or shout out to get paid attention to, right? So sometimes that looks like having chronic fatigue. I see this like they often get fibromyalgia, or what they diagnose as that, right? Or it's chronic pain that is unexplainable and doesn't have a root cause in physical trauma. So there's all this other stuff that also pops up. So when you're not connected to your body will want to connect with you. It'll be like, hey, what about us? It'll be like, what about me, right? And so that's what your body will do when you're not paying attention to it. And for star seeds especially, and those who just like to stay up in the higher frequencies and they're not grounded, their bodies will start to scream at them. So that might be another sign that you're ungrounded. Another one is you might have issues with the root, sacral, and solar plexus chakras, which are more those more physical chakras, they're called. So, the heart is the heart. It's kind of like that central chakra. And then above the heart is all those spiritual chakras. And so there are a lot of light workers who are very connected on those spiritual chakras, but the lower ones, not so much. So usually they have a lot of like gunk in there, a lot of unhealed stuff, a lot of stuff that's unhealed on the physical plane. They're kind of like stuck in trauma. And, so a lot of that is because all of those lower physical chakras are not clear. And so that is also a sign that you may be ungrounded. And then also you may be in fear and scarcity. Especially around money and survival, which is obviously very much a root chakra thing. And but when you're not grounded, you're not connected on the earthly plane. Like you're not connected to the experience that we're having on as humans, right? And and I've heard this many times from a lot of light workers, is I hear them say a lot of stuff like, I just don't want to deal with this 3D stuff. I don't want to deal with this earthly plane. It's like, hate to break it to you, but you chose to incarnate at this time to have this human experience so that you could physically ground in these higher frequencies. And, sometimes they'll say, oh, no, I didn't do that. And it's like, okay, right? And so that's where they get to do that work, right? But the whole thing around the scarcity and the not paying the bills, the I don't have access to money, the whole, I'm just here to survive. I'm just trying to do what I can to survive. Like that is not what you are here to do, right? You are not here to just simply survive and make do and settle and that kind of thing, right? Like those who find me usually find me because they know that they're here for something bigger. They know that they've got a big purpose. And now it's getting to beyond just having your purpose and beyond having a mission, right? It's about, what am I intentionally creating in this world? What is the field of energy I am creating on this planet? And that is why being grounded is so important, because if you are still just up in the ether and complaining about 3D and how much you hate it and therefore you're not grounded in it, then that's, to be honest, like a bad excuse, right? Because you came here for something big and you came here to create in a big way. And if that's the case, then you get to do whatever you need to do to start getting grounded, to start getting anchored in into Gaia's frequency, and especially you star seeds. You like to talk about, being galactic and all that. That's awesome. And part of the reason why we chose to be incarnating on this planet at this time as star seeds is to anchor in that higher consciousness. And you can't anchor shit in if you're out there in the ether. You just can't. You can't. It has to come in. You are that conduit, and you are that energy, that frequency, that field that grounds it in, right? So those are some of the signs you may be ungrounded. So, I'm sharing all of this with you so that you can kind of tap into, okay, this is where I'm at with that. Oh, I resonate with that, or I'm done with that. Like it's good to know where you are in all this, right? So when you're not grounded as a light worker, I want to just share with you the impact of when you're not grounded as a light worker, as a leader of light in this world, then you don't fulfill your mission. Like that's just the first thing that happens, is that you do not fulfill your mission and your destiny. And so that's the whole thing, right? Is that if you are not stepping in to being grounded as a leader of light, then you won't be fulfilling your destiny, because you simply won't be taking the action required to fulfill that destiny. And also what will happen is that you'll end up staying stuck in fear and scarcity mode and survival mode. And what happens when you stay stuck in that frequency, then you will struggle to pay your bills. Then you will also stay in the distraction, because what's going on right now is that there is intentional distraction on this planet. And I've said it many times before, and I'm sharing it again because it's relevant to this whole aspect of being grounded. If you're getting taken out by all of this stuff that's happening in the world, and if you're watching the news, then that's like the number one distraction, like especially mainstream news. It's going to take you out of your power, because if you listen to any of that, it's very much part of what propagates the fear paradigm. And if you intention to fulfill your experience, your purpose, your mission in this world, it will require you to allow yourself to be entered into that that new level frequency. And you can't enter that new level frequency and be that new level frequency if you're staying stuck in the old paradigm. So that's really what happens when you're not grounded as a light worker. And so if you are ready to be grounded as a light worker, then, I do have some of the basic stuff that you get to use as techniques to ground yourself. But really, I'm sharing this all with all of you in order to help you understand that it gets to take a new shape. There is a new way of being in the frequency. And, one of those top techniques to being grounded is to being activated, and that's something that I do. I'm an activator for divine power codes. And so that's what happens, when people work one-on-one with me. So if that's something that resonates for you, then, because it'll either do, or it will, or it won't. And the energy of what we get to create too is that we also don't need to explain ourselves. We just are, when we're in our I am, we are not in the explaining of what people don't get, right? We just are in our essence, and it either resonates with people or it doesn't. And when you're grounded in your essence, that's just how it is, right? So here are some of the five top techniques to getting grounded. So number one thing that you may already know, getting your bare feet on the earth. And so here in the East Coast where I'm at right now, it's cold, it's pretty much winter here. So having your bare feet on the earth, like some people will do it anyway. Like some people are doing ice cold baths right now, right? But if it's too cold for you to have your feet planted on the earth, then, you can do other things too. And you can choose one of these other ways to get grounded. But I do know that if you are, if it's too cold where you are to put your bare feet on the earth, you could either do it anyway for like a brief moment of time, or, you can work with the earth, like with your hands even. But usually like walking with the feet is really, really important. And I'm going to share with you why. So in acupuncture, because as you know, I'm also a licensed acupuncturist, there's actually a point at the bottom of the sole of the foot called kidney one. I think it's called, what is that point? I think it's called Yongquan. Yeah, it's called Yongquan, kidney one. And so it's at the ball of the foot, like right before the ball of the foot, right? So that is a very, very grounding point. And if you do acupuncture on it, or do acupressure, or even walk barefoot, that actually helps to stimulate that acupuncture point. And I mean, the actual acupuncture work for that kidney one point, it's very strongly grounding, as you can imagine, inserting an acupuncture needle at that point. And I have used that before. And it's also very helpful for those who are even schizophrenic, who are really, really not connected on that level, right? And so that's how grounding that point is when you needle it in an acupuncture setting, right? So I'm sharing this with you because it's deeply grounding to stimulate that point. And you can even energetically send energy down to that point. So let's say it's cold where you are, like it is here. You can just simply send that energy down into the ball of your foot. Like I have a colleague of mine, he's also an acupuncturist, and he needed to get really grounded, and he was in the train, in the subway station, right? And he was in the actual train, the actual car, and it was moving. And it's still possible for you to get grounded even in those moments, sending that energy down into the balls of your feet, even if you're in something that's moving, because it's all about your intention, right? And so this is going beyond just like walking on the earth, because I mean, that's of course highly important, hugging the trees, all of that, highly grounding. And when you start to become more skilled in this type of work, you can actually ground your energy no matter where you're at, no matter if you're in something that's moving. And I've done that before myself. And so that's something that my colleague did. He actually sent energy down into the balls of his feet when he was on the train and he was about to get to a stop. And there's like announcements on the train, and people are like trying to move through each other, and that kind of thing. It's very distracting to be on the train, right? But this is what happens when you cultivate being grounded, is that no matter where you're at, you can be grounded. And that's why me living here in New York City has been so vital to me being grounded as an empath and as a light worker. And because someone had actually asked me, how do you stay grounded when you're in the middle of New York City and all those distractions in New York City? And the answer is like either you step up or you step out. It's kind of like that type of energy here, where it's like either you are an empath and you just succumb to all of this energy, or you transform what you get to transform so that you can not survive, but to thrive as an empath and as a highly sensitive being. Because there are ways to do that, And also you take breaks. That's very, very important too. And so that's very important for me, and that's something that I do as well. But there's so many techniques. And so even if you're on a train that's moving, and there are people who are like, can I sit here? Or, like people are having an argument, across from you, like, I mean, you can still be grounded no matter what is going on. And that's something that not a lot of light workers, especially those who are just awakening now, like really get, is that you don't have to be in a monastery in order to get grounded. Like some people are like, oh, well, I need for my atmosphere to be perfect, and I need to be like living on a mountain and not be bothered for like a million years, and then I'll be grounded, right? And the reality is that you're grounded if you decide to be grounded. And if you start also implementing some of these things, right? So as you can see, it really starts with the intention of being grounded, no matter where you're at. No matter if you're in a moving subway car, if you're in the middle of New York City, where I'm literally in Midtown Manhattan. And, like there are all kinds of things going on around our building, Especially before COVID hit, there were a lot of people getting drunk outside, because there are a lot of bars around here, right? And a lot of hotels and a lot of tourists who come here and they're like, I'm in New York City, right? So it's like there's a lot of stuff going on here. And so, I've come to create and cultivate a certain level of groundedness that no matter what is going on around me, um, I'm anchored in. And that's what you get to have too, because there's a lot of distraction going on this planet, if you haven't noticed. And it's really imperative right now for you to get grounded in your essence. So that was number one, talking about putting those bare feet on the grass, on the earth, in the sand, what have you, right? And some alternatives and the intention around that, which is really the most important thing. Number two, meditate. Meditating is so, so important, period. If you are doing any work on this planet, if you are doing any higher level work, higher consciousness work, it is imperative for you to meditate. And it could look like, different for other people, like for some people it is that lotus position and they're sitting upright and they're, putting their hands with mudras and things like that. And that works. I don't do that because because when I meditate, I go elsewhere. I travel. And so I don't sit up, right? Because, I want my body to be held when I'm traveling. So like literally I will lie down and sometimes I'll be gone for like 3 hours. But I'm not saying this so that you're going to be also doing that, right? Because it looks different for everyone. For some people, meditation is exercise. Meditation is movement. There's ecstatic dance. There's sometimes the more traditional forms of meditation, but then there's also other ways to meditate. When you are cultivating stillness, you are meditating. So whatever way works for you, and that might take some exploration. Maybe it looks like meditation, like sitting up or laying down or, envisioning certain things or using a meditation recording. I know that I used to do that when I was first starting out, using meditation recordings because I had the monkey mind, and I still do sometimes. But that's part of the discipline of meditation, right? Is like not going with a monkey mind and putting it where it gets to be put so that you can go into where you need to go. So the meditation that will cultivate your third eye power, your crown chakra connection, with God, Great Spirit, Source, Universe, however you want to call it, Creator, right? And when you are meditating, you're actually one grounded way you can meditate. I'll give you an example that you can apply today. Is that you can literally imagine the energy traveling from your head. You can even go from the top of your crown chakra and like just transfer it and just bring it down, bringing that energy down, 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 pass through all your chakras, through your heart, down your solar, sacral, and root chakras. And again, this is all about intention, right? And then you're sending that energy down into the balls of your feet. From the balls of your feet, you're extending roots into the earth's crust, into the magma, into the waters that are running through the earth, and into Gaia's body, right? And down into the center of this planet. And you can imagine even a heart, an emerald heart at the center of the planet, and connecting with that energy and that frequency, and connecting with Gaia in that moment. And when you do, you are connecting with her and you are grounding yourself. And then how you can come back from that after you have done that is to imagine that energy going back up, 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 up into the roots, into the balls of your feet, into your legs, into your body, into the heart, and then you can bring that, upwards and outwards through your crown if you like. But that is one technique, one way through meditation that you can ground yourself. I mean, there's so many ways through meditation to ground yourself. But that's just one of them. And so with me, that might be something that I do. I do connect with Gaia every day because that's something, I have a contract with her. and I show up. That's part of my contract in being incarnated on this planet at this time. And so it just depends on what you are here to create and really grounding that in. And so meditation was number two. Number three, eat root vegetables. So that might be very seasonable for you, in season for you, depending where you live. Me, I'm here in New York City. So we have a lot of the root vegetables, the squash, the pumpkin, the carrots, all that stuff, the potatoes, sweet potatoes, all that stuff is really, really great. And the reason why is because, food is medicine, and depending on what you eat, you won't get that kind of grounding from Burger King, I'll tell you that, right? But you will get it from certain foods. And so root vegetables will be very grounding. And what would be really helpful is if you got root vegetables that are in season and also that are grown locally. Very, very important. So that's number three in terms of top five techniques to getting grounded. And again, just to reiterate, this is about grounding in your frequency, grounding in your essence. And some of the things that I'm sharing are kind of like basics, but I'm also flavoring it with the whole reason why you get to be anchored into the frequency that you're here to create right now. So that was number three, the root vegetables. I like to use my Instant Pot for that. It's like a really quick, condensed way to pressure cook the food, but keeping the nutrients. Because some cooking can really nuke out the nutrients. And so I really like the Instant Pot because it cooks it more quickly, but it also keeps the nutrients intact. So that's why I really love that. Number four, take Epsom salt baths. So salt is very grounding, period. That doesn't mean that you're going to eat like pounds and pounds of salt, right? But what I'm saying is it's very grounding. That's why I think it's even in like lithium, right? That drug lithium. There's salt there, right? And so it's supposed to be very grounding, depending, right? But the whole thing is that with this step number four, taking Epsom salt baths, imagine just immersing yourself in Epsom salt, in an Epsom salt concoction, right? And that is extremely grounding. That's why when you go swim in an ocean that is salt water, it's very cleansing, it's purifying. You feel very grounded afterwards, So it's that kind of thing that happens when you immerse yourself in an Epsom salt bath. So Epsom salts, number one, are just grounding, period, because of the salts. It also contains magnesium, which then gets infused in your skin. And so you can actually take in a very decent dosing of magnesium through your skin and into your body and get, magnesium content in your system, which helps with stress, which helps with, certain physical metabolic functions. And that's with you just ingesting the magnesium through your skin. It'll also ease any physical tension that you're holding on to because it'll go into the muscles. It'll go into the muscles and it'll relax the muscles. And also the thing too is with Epsom salt baths, it actually kind of kicks out oncoming colds too. And this is especially true if you mix your Epsom salt with certain types of essential oils. And so I would recommend high quality essential oils, like I know this is probably going to be controversial, but I've done some certifications with essential oils for chakras and for Chinese medicine, and there are some oils that are better than others, I'll just say. So some of the oils that I really like to use are Sunrose Aromatics. There's another one, Enfleurage. I think that's the name of the word flower in French, I think, but it's Enfleurage. Some of the ones that are really not that high quality, to be honest, are some of those like those ones that I forgot the name of it, but it's those ones that came in like balls that you ingest. And honestly, I don't recommend that you ingest essential oils. I know that's a popular thing people like to do, but it will actually erode your gastrointestinal tract if you don't do it correctly. And also things like what is that? Some of those MLM kind of essential oils. I forgot their names right now, but it's not the whole because it's MLM. It's just because it's the quality. The quality is not really high vibrational. And for those who are just asking about the best brands, I already mentioned it. So you'll want to check out the check out the replay. And so what you want to do is that if it's going to be for kicking out the colds, then you want to use something like Eucalyptus globulus, because there's so many versions of eucalyptus, and I'm not going to even go into all of that, but Eucalyptus globulus, especially when it's cold outside, is a really great essential oil to use. Also, Ravensara and rosemary, because those will help really with clearing out and releasing from the upper areas of the body, meaning the lungs and the shoulders and the neck and all that stuff. So you want to mix like 3 to 6 cups of drops, excuse me, because I'm looking at the cups right now. You want to mix 3 to 6 drops of quality essential oils and no more than 6, because some people, when they don't know how to use essential oils, they're like, oh yeah, we'll just use the whole bottle, right? And the whole thing about that is that can be really dangerous, because there are some essential oils that have properties that if you do too much of it, it will actually counteract the desired effect that you're trying to create. So for instance, like sweet marjoram, just to give you a quickie on this, sweet marjoram is an excellent essential oil that I use a lot. But if you use too much of, like for instance, too many drops in what you're working with sweet marjoram, it will actually act as an aphrodisiac, meaning it will kill your libido. So you don't want to be doing that, right? So that's just an example of being responsible with using your essential oils. Because I know it's really popular to just like be like, oh yeah, let's try this and that, but you want to make sure you're using it correctly. So if you're doing an Epsom salt bath, I recommend 1 to 3 cups of Epsom salt. The more cups would be more for like if you've been exposed to a lot of toxins, like for instance, people who are around toxic coworkers or toxic family members or whatever, you want to kind of, it'll be more like 3 cups versus 1 cup of Epsom salt. And then this is also a really great recipe for insomnia. If you're taking the Epsom salt bath for insomnia, then you want to add 1 cup of baking soda. This is also great if you just want to be detoxifying, plus the 3 to 6 drops of quality essential oils. You mix all of that together, then dump it in the tub in the water, and then swish that all around, get that dissolved, and then if you want to, if you're a healer, you can also encode it with some codes and stuff like that, and then hang out there for like 20-30 minutes. Make sure that you're being present with the water and the essence and clearing out and that kind of thing. I had one patient who I recommended that he do an Epsom salt bath to kind of clear out his energy field. But what was so funny was that he took in his laptop to do work while doing his Epsom salt bath. And I said, yeah, that's kind of like defeating the purpose of like relaxation, right? Like doing all this stuff on your laptop. So really make sure you're being conscious and intentional with how you're grounding yourself. So Epsom salt baths, really awesome. You can also use Dead Sea salt, which I use also, very clearing, cleansing. Also Himalayan sea salt too. That, all these kinds of salts, really, really powerful. So that's number 4, take Epsom salt baths, okay? So is this resonating for you guys? And my energy is like, it runs so quickly that sometimes my mouth has to catch up to like my words, because it's like I'm always running in that accelerated energy field. And so that was number 4, take Epsom salt baths. And right now, if you're popping in, I'm talking about the top 5 grounding techniques for light leaders. So I spoke about the signs you may be ungrounded, what happens when you're not grounded, and the 5 top techniques. So now that was number 4. And number 5, yes, working with crystals. Crystals, very, very powerful, and especially when you know how to use them intentionally. And you do the stuff like you clear them and then you charge them and then you use them and then you also make sure you're clearing them frequently, especially if you're using them a lot. So some of the grounding crystals, usually it's those crystals that really work with the root chakra. So ruby, garnet, black tourmaline, and also black tourmaline, by the way, highly, highly protective. It's very, very important to use black tourmaline, especially if you're working with a lot of dense energy. And being here in New York City, I've worked with a lot of dense energy, and also, sometimes the clients and the patients that come in, especially in New York anyway, they have a lot to clear out. And so sometimes there are some attachments and things like that. So you want to make sure that you are protected, not from a paranoid way, because when you are really in your power, you depend less on crystals and things and other stuff, and you're actually just you're just in that protective field already because you're already stepped into your power. You have cultivated your frequency and you're at this level of activation that you don't really require that. You don't require these things. Eventually, they become more of a helpful thing. They're more like helpful tools. So these helpful tools as grounding crystals, ruby, garnet, black tourmaline, again, one of the most highly protective stones you can work with. Hematite, obsidian, bloodstone, red jasper, smoky quartz. Loving the smoky quartz. I'm always attracted to the smoky quartz because it's so beautiful and deep, but also very high vibrational. So those are some of the stones you can use. And so that's something that I just wanted to share with you because when you work with stones, and you can work with them, through having them by your bedside, by having them under your pillow. I do both. And also, as you can see, I wear them as pendants and on my body because what you want to do is you want to inform your energy field with these crystals, right? And so I even work with them throughout the day. Like I even have a crystal mat, it's got infrared and it works with like all types of crystals embedded in it. So, it's like I surround myself with frequency medicine all the time. And this is how you can shift your energy very, very quickly, right? So I think I saw a question here around crystals. Where can we find real crystals? Because there's many fake crystals on the market. Yeah, there are. And really, at this point, it's really going to some of those shows, like these gem and crystal shows. Here in New York City, we have a gem show that happens twice a year. So you can go to these shows. And also you get to trust your instincts. You get to trust your intuition on this, right? Because sometimes even the vendors don't know. But like at the end of the day, it's about the feeling you get when working with these, right? It becomes less about, well, is this legit? Because you will feel whether or not it is, And so that's really important. So you get to trust that. You get to trust your instincts around that. And so I'm not going to get too deep into all these crystal questions because this is really a question about getting grounded. Because there could be a whole live just on crystals alone. So I'm just looking at some of these questions here. There's one question here that I'm seeing. Smoky quartz gives me the best dreams related to fear. However, is this a clearing of my fears or just showing me to recognize? Well, anytime you do healing work, it's going to come to the surface. And it comes to the surface so that it can get cleared. So, and that's where some healers or even, people who are doing the spiritual work, sometimes that's where they stop, right? Is that they're like, oh God, I'm feeling that discomfort, right? And then they stop because they don't want to feel the discomfort. But the reality is that it needs to come to the surface in order to get cleared. And if you stop when you're midway, then it's not going to completely clear. You're going to still just hold on to that somewhere, right? So, but yeah, I won't be answering too many questions about crystals because this is going to be very much about the grounding. That's the whole topic for today. So that was number 5, working with grounding crystals. So if you're just tapping in right now, today's topic is the top 5 grounding techniques for light leaders. I shared the signs that you may be ungrounded, what happens when you're not grounded as a light worker, and then also my 5 top techniques on getting grounded. And some of these are just really basic too, that you may or may not know. But the whole reason why I'm sharing this with you is because it's so important for you as an emerging leader of light to really be grounded in your essence, because there are a lot of distractions and that's intentional. And if you're letting yourself getting distracted by like, oh, this is happening in the world, or this person did that, or this thing is now rolling out, it's like if you get taken out by every single piece of news that is coming out, that is a problem, right? Because then if you're getting taken out by all the things that are going on in the world and you're just getting caught up in all of that and you're not working on yourself, that's actually the agenda of those negative forces to get you distracted from yourself. And then they succeeded, right? Because you're too caught up in all the to-dos or the stuff going on in the world or getting caught up in drama and things like that, then you won't be focusing on yourself. But here's the thing, is that when you are a light worker or an emerging leader of light in this world who's got a really big purpose, and you're allowing yourself to get distracted from what you're here to create, then their work was done, right? Their work's complete, like they won, right? But if instead you get grounded in your power, get grounded in your light, get grounded into what you're creating in this world, and you're already starting to think about, okay, in 2022, what am I going to be creating? How do I want to consciously create my reality? What is the impact I want to be making? If that's where you're at, then you're focusing. Then you're coming from a grounded place and you're starting to roll out what you're going to be creating in the new year. If you're still in, oh, but this person did that, and then now this thing is coming into play, and like now I'm worried about my health, and now I'm worried about, this and that and this and that, then you're getting caught up in the drama. Then you're getting caught up in the distraction that is intentional to distract you from your power. So let this be a takeaway for you right now, that you get to be in your power as an emerging leader of light. And how that gets to look like, one of those ways is that you are consciously present with what you are creating in the new year, the impact you're going to have, people's lives you're going to change, the transformation you're going to provide, how you're going to help people at a higher level. So that's really what that is about. And if you're just joining us right now, make sure you check out the replay to check out some of the stuff that we covered today. So that said, I'll take like maybe 2 or 3 questions about the content that we just covered around being grounded as an emerging leader of light. And then we'll be wrapping it up. Hi, Mayrav, good to see you here. And good to see all of you here as well. Okay, so I'm not seeing any questions about the topic today of being grounded as an emerging leader of light. So I'll take that to mean that you are good and you're feeling complete about what I covered. And next week, we will be having the Rise Up with Margarita show again, because I'm weekly on Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern. And so that's going to be the 20th. Monday the 20th, that we're going to be back here. And if any of this has really resonated for you, and or if you're feeling really inspired, because either this resonates with you or it doesn't. And so if it resonates for you and you're ready for what's next, you're ready to really get prepared and amplified and awakened into what you're going to be creating in 2022. It's like a tongue twister, all the twos. Then make sure you DM me what your powerful purpose is, because my work that I do is really for those emerging leaders of light who are connected with their purpose, who desire to really impact the world in really profound, deep ways. and who are ready to step into their creatorship. And if that's you, DM me what your purpose is, and we can have a conversation and talk about next steps from there. And also, just to put it out there too, I am also going to be raising my rates, as you should be too, in the new year. And so if you want to kind of step in at the old rate, I recommend doing that before this month ends. So I hope that you will take me up on that, because I know that there are so many light leaders who are here to create and who are ready to really make a difference in the world in a bigger way. So, so I see a question here. Okay. What is a good way to look at creating in your everyday life? Well, that's like a longer conversation, but one way you can start is getting grounded in what your purpose is and coming from there. And that's why that's really important when people want to work with me, that they do have a connection to their purpose, because my work is, I'll just say, it's more advanced. So, there is going to need to be some level of understanding of your own purpose in order to do that deeper one-on-one work. That's not to say that you need to be perfect either, right? Because we all come in where we come in, right? So that's where you get to start, is get connected to your purpose and then start from there. How often should one be grounding? Honestly, every day. Like, I do it every day. Like I ground and clear and intention and all this other stuff. I do that every single day. And depending on what's going on in the world, I might do that more than once a day. So that's really, really important. So good questions, everyone. Good questions. And if you're just joining us now, know that this will be helpful as a replay on Instagram and also on Facebook. It'll be there in the video section, so you can check that out. But if you are interested in doing more deep diving, transforming deeply, you're ready, you've got your purpose on, you're ready to open into what you're going to create next, then I recommend that you DM me, or if you just want to, you can book a call with me, book a strategy call. And this is not a psychic reading call, it's not to tell you what your purpose is. The calls, the strategy calls, are really to find out what's the best strategy to serve you into the next level of your power, and can I help you go there? And that's really what those calls are about. Someone is saying being in water after washout grounding effects. I'm not sure what that is. Okay, so staying on point, because I'm noticing there's some questions coming in that's not really connected to being grounded, and it's also top of the hour too. So I'm going to wrap things up. So I recommend that in terms of next steps, make sure that you are being intentional with what you're creating, and that requires you being connected to your purpose and grounding yourself into what that purpose is, and then approaching what you're creating in 2022 from that space. So I hope that was helpful for you, and I will see you next week. If you want to go into next steps with me, DM me what your purpose is, and we can have a conversation from there. But have a wonderful rest of the week full of love, light, and power. Talk to you soon.